Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Million Pound Mission Podcast. It's your buddy Adam, the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and this is episode number 263, Accepting Your Body, with my friend Megan Nagy. And Megan just delivered so much value in this episode. I cannot wait to share it with you. First, quick reminder, 2 amazing connection opportunities, 2 live workshops with me, the PhD, and those are coming up in September in Huntington Beach, California. That's a half-a-day workshop. And then in October, I'm hosting a full-day event at my fitness studio in Bloomington, Indiana. So hang out after the episode to get you some more details on that. I would love to connect with you live. Now, do you guys ever look at yourself in the mirror and just start to pick apart all of the things that you wish you could change? Now, I think, honestly, we all have been a victim of this type of thinking at some point along the line in our transformation journey. Anybody that loses weight does this, right? Now, I want you to imagine that you had to be on internationally broadcast television events in a bathing suit and deal with body image issues like I just described at the same time. And that, my friends, is exactly what today's guest has to deal with. And she's here to help you figure out how to accept who you are and how you look and keep moving forward. All right. Now, Megan Nagy is a professional volleyball player representing Canada, and she's also now a nutritionist with a focus in her coaching on eating to feel energized, because energized bodies and minds equals vibrant living. And that's what Megan's all about. Now, in this conversation, we talk about how she was in her head, about how she looked and how she overcame that mindset. We talk about what drove her to decide to become a nutritionist. We get her best tips for females, especially that are in their head about how they look. And we talk about how to walk the fine line of ending body shame, but also not accepting being unhealthy. Megan is an amazing athlete, an amazing and inspirational person. You're going to fall in love with this lady. So let's not delay any further. Here's episode number 263, Accepting Your Body with Megan Nagy. All right, Megan, welcome to the Million Pound Mission Podcast. How are we doing today, my friend?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I'm really excited that we got introduced by our mutual friend, Dov Barron. And I always like to use my custom hashtag for Dov. In Dov, we trust. So anybody that Dov tosses my direction, I'm like, okay, this is somebody worth talking to. And as I dug into your story and your background, I think that we're going to have a really interesting conversation. So I'd like to start with kind of your origin story. Anybody that reaches the level of athletics that you've reached, representing your nation, there's a story behind that. So tell us a little bit about how you became an elite level athlete.
Okay, so this was nowhere in my plane of vision growing up. I grew up in a super small town in Saskatchewan called Bredenbury. That's 300 people, and you kind of, when you grow up in a town that small, I find that no one encourages like really huge dreams like that. And so I went away to college in Medicine Hat, which at the time felt enormous, but there's only about 50 or 60,000 people there, but it felt so huge. And then when I was playing volleyball in college there, my coach was a professional player when he was still playing. And so he really encouraged looking at opportunities for after college was over. And that's also where I met my husband to be. And he is also a huge dreamer and kind of encouraged me to look past college, because I just thought that's where sport ended for most people. But I really, really wanted to keep playing. And so it was kind of influences from the two of them that opened my eyes a little bit to it. And I was like, okay, maybe I can. And so I got an agent right after college was over and got a contract in France. And so I was playing in a small town up there as well. It's called Laon. It's an hour north of Paris. But playing professionally, I'm pretty small. I'm around 5'9", and I was a left side indoor. And so you just kind of realize when you get into pro leagues that everyone is pretty massive and you just have to swing your arm off basically.
Yeah.
I came back and started trying to play on the beach. And so that's kind of where that transition happened. I moved to Edmonton because that's where my fiance's from, and joined the beach community there. And the training center for the national team is in Toronto. So I just kind of took a leap of faith and moved out here before I had made the team, but thankfully it all worked out after that.
Yeah. And my sister, my younger sister, Sunny, is 6'3", and she played collegiate volleyball. So I'm a fan of the sport. I'm a fan of just the athleticism. And I grew up playing basketball in Indiana. That's like the sport in Indiana is basketball. But I don't think I've ever been to a more exciting sporting event than a volleyball match. It's just like last point, back and forth, and just crazy with the twists and turns that happen with the sports. If you guys have never checked out volleyball, you are missing out big time. But, I just, when I saw that like you're a representative of Canada in beach volleyball, I'm like, you don't put Canada and beach volleyball together. So that was interesting. So obviously you train indoors a lot, but I mean, is there transfer from indoor to outdoor? How do you train differently? Because obviously you're on sand. It's got to be different, right?
It's definitely different. Mostly mindset wise, like a lot of the skills are the same, obviously, like bump, set, spike, but different strategies, different kinds of tactics that you use. I mean, there's a guarantee that you'll be touching the ball every time, whereas with 6 people, because there's only 2 people that play beach.
Right.
Right. So when you're indoor and there's 6 people, there's a little bit less happening, I suppose. And you obviously need, some more endurance and cardio when there's only 2 of you and when you're running around in sand. So I like that aspect of it, and the fact that you have to have some more strategy involved, and just because with indoor, it's also harder to score because there's 6 defenders. So if there's only 2 people, you kind of need to be looking all the time where the open space is, and I don't know, it feels a little bit more like a cat and mouse game. I love it.
Nice. So once you get out there on the beach, obviously, in volleyball in general, there's women are out there, they're showing their athleticism, but especially in the beach volleyball, you're showing a lot of your body, and there's a lot more body in the spotlight and body awareness. And I've talked about this before. Like, I'm somebody that I've lost over 100 pounds, and I'm a fit individual, but I'm still very like body conscious of like, even if I take my kids to the pool or something like that, I'm always running through that mental game of, am I representing what people think I should look like and things like that. So was there any sort of a head game when you stepped out onto the beach and your body's kind of out there, and how did you deal with that?
Oh, absolutely. That took a few years, honestly, for me to be able to play without thinking about my body. But I think it's something that a lot of beach players go through because, I mean, the sport is, I think, the most watched sport at the Olympics, and people argue all the time that it's because it's sexualized and because we're in bikinis. But so it takes a lot of work, especially for women, to portray strength instead of sex, So it's that's kind of a weird mental battle that's happening now, but it took a few years to even start to think about that, with like to get past the whole self-consciousness of playing in a bathing suit. It was the strangest thing. And it was a huge mental block for quite a while, like not being able to play as free as you need to, because you're thinking about what you look like. It's a huge hurdle.
Yeah, it seems like to me too, like, is it necessary to play in a bikini? And like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that that's the official uniform of an Olympic sport. It doesn't seem like, I'd be worried about, the wardrobe malfunction happening or something like that, while you're diving for a ball. So, I mean, what have they thought about changing that to where you can, you can wear more like what people wear when they play indoor volleyball?
Yeah, you definitely can. It's up to you as a team. You just have to be matching your partner. Okay. But I've come to realize, because I used to think the same thing. I was like, why does everyone wear bikinis? Like, why don't we just wear spandex shorts? But it's kind of crazy. Like, you don't really think about it until you're diving around in spandex or in like pants or anything, how much sand gets everywhere. Like, you need kind of a minimal amount of clothing so that you can't have sand weighing you down all over the place. And because a lot of the time when you're playing, it's in a hot environment and you just kind of want to shed as many layers as possible because you're dying from the heat.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. You don't want sand creeping up on you, and you got to deal with that heat. So that does make sense. So kind of along these lines, one of the questions I've been I've been really thinking about a lot myself. I've been asking a lot of people that are health and in fitness influence positions. So there's a big movement right now as far as like body acceptance. And I want to get your opinion on kind of walking the fine line, because you're somebody that's out there coaching people now. So how do we walk the fine line of accepting our body, accepting who we are, but also not accepting poor health? Because I feel like it's a very, very fine line where, the way I look at it, like I accept who I am. I'm proud of what I've accomplished. But if I start to slip, I have to realize that there are other people counting on me being around and being healthy. So I have to take ownership over that as well and make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do to kind of maximize my life and my years with my family. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel the same way about this as you do. I think that people should enjoy their life, and restriction is not sustainable. And so then when people that's where crash diets come in and things like that. If you are, aiming for an Instagram body or these fake bodies that are now all over social media. So, to me, it all comes back, and in my coaching, it all comes back to how do you feel? How are your energy levels? Are you able to go an entire day feeling good and feeling comfortable in your own skin? And those are the things that are important to me, because I've struggled with weight. I have huge weight fluctuations throughout my whole life as well. And so I know when I feel good, and it just so happens to be at a certain weight, but it's not because I've hit a certain weight. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think that just to celebrate, I always love to be a little bit silly. So I think that what we should do, we should be like pretend Instagram models when this episode goes live, and we can do an Instagram booty pose battle back and forth in our Instagram stories, and we'll let the people vote. I'll put up a poll, and that cracks me up when I'm flipping through Instagram. I love hanging out on Instagram, but you get through some of those stories, I'm like, what? I mean, I wonder how many hours people stood in front of the dang mirror posing the right way to look, get the lighting right and all that stuff. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So just my 2 cents on that.
It is ridiculous, but it's also dangerous, because there's, 16-year-old girls that are seeing these posts of perfect bodies that took, 3 hours to photograph and another hour to Photoshop. And they're like, oh, that's what I should look like. It's a dangerous thing, I think.
Yeah. So I'll get my Speedo ready for our booty battle. So I'll get it going. All right. Now, so you've made a pivot. Obviously, you've represented your country. You're an elite level athlete, but now you're getting into that coaching component, focusing on the nutritionist side of things, behavioral therapy. So how did that interest get sparked within your whole journey here as an athlete and now a coach?
That was all sparked, I think, because we have so much training in it. As athletes, you have to eat for performance, you have to eat for fuel. And through the national team, I kind of took it upon myself to get some mental training, especially as it came to body image issues that I was having. And so then I just realized as my journey went on that a lot more people need this than athletes. And so I became a holistic nutritionist and started working with this really great company in Toronto called Adele Wellness. And they have combined nutrition and cognitive behavioral therapy in order to create sustainable changes in people's lives around health and wellness, because there's so much information on the internet and so much conflicting information that I think programs need to be built for each unique individual, and behavior change and changing your habits for long-term, life's real, truly lifestyle changes. That's kind of the way I view being healthy and living well. And so it's things like that I'm moving towards, which all started kind of in my own journey of taking these lessons that I've learned as an athlete and applying them to the rest of my life.
Yeah. And you applied them to your own journey, and you've kind of healed your own situation. You're leading by example. And I always love people that have stories like that. So let's talk about women specifically. Where are you seeing women that are maybe clients or friends or people that you've been exposed to through your athletics? Where are you seeing women just getting in their head about their health, and what kind of suggestions would you have for them? Maybe it's, not a positive body image, or maybe just having unrealistic expectations of what they should look like or what goal weight looks like and things like that. So where are women struggling? And let's talk about some thoughts on, some ways that we can start to gain some momentum in the right direction.
Women, I think in the past have struggled a lot more with not wanting to work out because they don't want to get bulky and that whole thing. But I'm really glad that is, I think, coming to an end. And women are getting more and more okay with being in the gym and with gaining some muscle and not being freaked out by that.
Yeah.
So that's a great movement. I think something that plagues a lot of women, especially when it comes to changing around their nutrition, is how everything affects their hormones, because women have to worry about that a little bit more than men do. And that's kind of, I don't know. I feel like a lot of women don't understand their hormones. And I certainly didn't. I was diagnosed with PCOS in 2013. And so then that's kind of when I took a deep dive into hormone health and how different foods affect your hormones, and eating a good amount of fat is good for hormone health. Things like iodine to support your thyroid, like all of these things that just like are little potential game changers for women. But I mean, the cookie cutter diet plans online, or many of them, that only lay out kind of macronutrients. A lot of the times people, like women that I know, will follow those to a T and not see results. And it's because their hormones are out of whack. And so I think personally that, the more information you have around your health, the better. And so I'm glad to see, testing, like the Dutch test and things like that for hormones that are coming out now. And just so people can have a fuller picture of what's actually happening in their life. And then you can know your action steps after you know where you are now.
So what do some of those action steps tend to look like? So if their hormones are out of whack, they've come to you for help, where do you start unraveling that once you know that, okay, this is the issue? Let's start taking some action so that we can fix it.
Well, this is a big part of why I don't just like calling myself a nutritionist, because like while nutrition is obviously a huge part of it, it's like there's only so much nutrition can do for you in a sense. Like you can have the best diet in the world, but no amount of food or supplements are going to overcome, the damage that's caused by chronic stress or toxic relationships or unhealthy work environments, lack of sleep. So I start kind of by taking a view of a person's life and making changes like that initially that will have the greatest impact that will kind of be like the first domino and help them to see some results right away, so that they can be like, oh, like these are sustainable changes and it didn't take that much for me to implement them, and let's keep going. So I just like to get some momentum with things like that at first, because sometimes people don't want to change their diet, but they'll go to bed a half hour earlier. It's not like diet's the only thing.
Right. Yeah. I was talking to somebody this morning on a coaching call, and it's just a typical person that's very, very busy, doesn't have a whole lot of time, but wants to fix everything all at once, And I said, okay, if you've got an extra hour, here's the pecking order. Number 1, sleep. Number 2, focus on food. Number 3, go and sweat. So if you only have an hour, focus. If you're low on sleep, do that first. If you're good on sleep and you have some time to meal prep, then do that. If you've meal prepped and you're good on sleep, then go sweat. And I'm like, she's like, it can be that simple. I'm like, yeah, we got to start somewhere instead of doing nothing. That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, so it seems like, well, what are you seeing? Like when you are dealing with people, where are they lacking the most? If it's that ultra busy person, is it a sleep thing? Is it just taking too much onto our plate? What are you seeing when you're out there with boots on the ground working in the field?
Definitely sleep is a big one, especially in Toronto. Because I was telling you before we started recording that while I work for Adele Wellness, my fiance and I are also starting our own business together. But for the time being, I've been working at Adele Wellness, and that we deal with kind of corporate professionals in the downtown core, and they are so busy and so run down. And so sleep is definitely the thing that happens first. That's the biggest change that a lot of them can make. But in this new direction that I also want to go is to help athletes. And so I think that they're really good and diligent with sleep. And that's the population that feels like they're doing everything right, but sometimes still aren't seeing the results that they want. So that's kind of where I like to dive into a little more of the like supplements and hormones and things like that. And like eating timing and, the nuances of it, but definitely sleep is the first thing for like the corporate downtown type right now.
Hey, this is just a really quick break in the action to remind you that I've got 2 live Million Pound Mission workshops coming up. I'm going to be doing a half-day workshop in Huntington Beach, California on September the 21st, and I'm putting on a full-day workshop at my fitness studio, the world headquarters in lovely Bloomington, Indiana on October 19th. You can head on over to millionpoundmission.com to get all the details. You can see our amazing speaker lineup for both events, and you can grab that ticket before we get sold out. Now, back to the episode. One of the cool things that I've learned as I have a gym and I work with the average public, but I used to train a lot of athletes as I was kind of learning my skills as a trainer. But I found that a lot of, quote unquote, average Joe people really enjoy being trained like an athlete or just feeling like they're athletic for the first time in their life. So maybe punching a punching bag or pushing a sled or doing a sprint, they're like, wow, I've never done this before. So what are some other lessons or takeaways that you think the average public could learn from the way athletes eat, sleep, and treat their bodies?
I think just understanding that it affects everything else. Like a typical professional will work for 12 or 14 hours of the day, but that means you don't have the energy or time to put into yourself or your relationships or, getting a great workout in and being able to prep your food and things of that nature. And so it's just kind of like flipping your priorities like athletes always put that type of stuff first. At least I know that I do. Like I make sure that all my food is prepped the day before. I make sure that I'm in bed for 9 hours, even if I'm not sleeping for the entire 9, like I make sure that I am at least trying to, things like that. And so I know that if I do those things first and foremost, that everything else will be better for my next day. And while, that's not always super realistic for people that are on deadlines downtown, I think that kind of shifting their mindset a little bit more towards that will help them to have more energy for their busy days. Whereas it's just like the alternative is just having, 10 coffees instead.
Yeah. It's amazing to me how people will, stay up as long as they can. They just sprint all day and then pass out. It's like, I talk to people about sleep, like having a ramp down period as if you're flying an airplane and you want a nice, soft, gentle landing, not crash landing. Now, go as hard as you can, crash land. And kind of the same thing as you wake up. You want a nice, gentle takeoff. So I found that a lot of high-level athletes that I've talked to have those sorts of routines. Do you apply anything with a kind of an end-of-day routine and a beginning-of-day routine?
Yeah, I actually use this great thing called the Daily Athlete Journal. And there's 2 parts to it. So it takes about 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night. And you start the day with answering the question, what or who are you grateful for? And you write out some goals for the day and 3 things that'll move you towards that goal. So if I'm looking at my one from this morning. So my 3 things for today are meditate, move, and create. And so those are 3 things that I feel will move me towards my better self in the long term. And then at night, you kind of rate how you did in different sections of your life: nutrition, teamwork, effort, stress, energy, joy. You write out a daily win and how you can be better for tomorrow. And I think just adopting some type of small goal setting and journaling habit like that just zones you in for, it helps you realize each and every morning and night what's important, and to not get so caught up in, like, to not sweat the small stuff, sort of. So I love this little book. It's been a huge game changer for me. I'm actually coaching some U16 beach teams this summer, and I'm definitely going to get this book for all of them as well.
That's awesome. That's a great, habit to teach people that are in their teenage years. I think a lot of people, a lot of people are fans of checklists and things like that. And I've got checklists, but I follow a similar pattern where I've got 3 things that are the most impactful things of the day. And I know if I knock those out, then that's a heck of a good day. And I can move forward and not fall into that, well, I've got these other things. I'm not there yet. I didn't complete the 4,000 things that I could have completed, but a lot of those things can be pushed off to the next day or the next week or whenever it's, more important for those things to actually be accomplished. So I love the daily 3 mentality. I also love the starting the day with some focus and gratitude, opening our eyes to where we want to drive ourselves. And then at the end of the day, it's kind of accountability mode. And I love that practice.
Me too. And I also, something we do at Adele Wellness that's really great is to determine someone's core values. And so there's different aspects to them, but my core values are health and friends and family. And so something that I like to practice is checking off something within those 2 core values before noon. And so I'll make sure that I get my workout in before noon and, have coffee with my fiance or call my mom or my sister to have like a 5-minute chat. And then I feel like the day has already been a success because I've checked off 2 things in my top core values before the day is half done. So that's like a great little tip that I would give people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's keep going. I like the way we're going. Do you have any other things that you track regularly, or I track my meditation. I usually set some sort of I've got a concept to rower, like a rowing goal for the week, and I add this all to my journal. So are you tracking anything else, like your minutes of working out, cardio mileage, anything like that?
Oh, nice. I track my meditation as well. I use Insight Timer. And so they track it for you on the app. So that's great. I've recently been certified as a yoga teacher. And so I'm trying to keep up my practice because there was a lot of talk at the end of our teacher training, of how to keep up momentum and things like that. So I have a goal of teaching and practicing once a week. And even if that's just like my fiance, Tom, is probably annoyed with me because I teach him more than he probably wants to be taught, but I'm just like, I need to do this for the week. So you need to be my guinea pig. So that's one for sure. But I more so kind of track the types of workouts. And so I like to get in 2 strength training, 2 cardio, and 1 yoga for each week. And so that's kind of how I check my boxes.
Nice. Now, are you familiar with any of Gretchen Rubin's work, like the 4 tendencies, any of that stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Heard of that.
So I just interviewed Gretchen recently, and I know my audience is probably going, yep, Adam found another upholder tendency in Megan here. So it's nice because the upholder tendency is that person that is really good with external motivation, external pressures, or people, like checklists and things like that are given by other people. We're also really good at bringing that out of ourselves and being like, yeah, here's my top 3 for today. I'm putting that on me, and I'm going to go out and get after it. Where we're kind of the rare breed of people, so it's always nice to kind of connect with another person like that, Megan. It makes me feel good. All right.
Well, good. I'm glad I can make you feel good.
So
but it does make you. Well, it makes me feel good. It makes you feel like a winner. Like at the end of each week, like you have something to celebrate at the end of each week because you've checked the things off your list, and that's how I feel about it too.
Yeah, and we drive that from within. Like you said, like you're the one grabbing your boyfriend, and you're out there hungry, and you're learning, and you're putting your fiance through yoga sessions and all that. So you're driving all that momentum. Now, one of the other tendencies, which is the most popular, not really popular, but the most prominent of the 4 tendencies, is called an obliger, and that's the person that does well with external motivation. So they get a checklist from their boss or their coach. There's that accountability externally. They do good. They do a boot camp and they perform all the things and they lose 30 pounds. But as soon as that's done, they go back to what they were doing before because they can't create that from within themselves. They aren't internally motivated. They aren't good with internal self-driven accountability. So as somebody that's helping people specifically with their nutrition, how would you help that person maneuver to a position? Obviously, hiring you is a great call because you're going to hold them accountable. But let's talk about helping people find that fire to get started on their own journey and get out there on that quest if they aren't naturally self-driven like you and I are.
Yeah, I think accountability is so important for people at first. That's why people do so much better when they have a coach versus when they don't, or even if they just let their friends and family know, or they post it on Facebook, like something along those lines, so that they're accountable to someone other than themselves, I think is beneficial for so many people at first. And then when they start to see some of the results that they're after, that's kind of when it bubbles up internally, in my experience. And so then after they've, moved a step towards their more ideal self, they just kind of want to keep taking steps in that direction. And I think it's the first, nutrition is like the first domino in all of that. And then they realize that they could be so much better, and then they just keep working towards it, and they don't need that external accountability anymore after a certain point, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I totally agree with that. And so you've mentioned a couple of times that you and your fiance, soon to be husband, are partnering up on a new little fitness business adventure. So tell us about that a little bit, because I'm always like really interested to pick people's brains that start like a brick and mortar facility, or, launch an online platform like I've done, and just kind of see how you're doing it.
Yeah, we're starting ours online. It's still all very new, but we know that he's a personal trainer, and I'm a nutritionist. And so we're just combining our skill sets to be able to help more people, because right now we have our own clients, and a lot of them have started to want to work with us as a duo. And so we were like, okay, well, let's just do this then. But we really want education and awareness to kind of be like the cornerstone of the business and of our practices, because we're the type that, like we don't feel the need to have to work with people for the rest of their lives. Like, we just want to give people the tools that they can go out and do it themselves. And, that after working with us for 6 months, they'll know how to eat and work out in ways that they enjoy, in ways that are sustainable for them, in ways that work for their bodies. And that's kind of our goal with all of this, is to just make a greater impact in the world by empowering people to enjoy the way that they're eating and working out. And so I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. Have you personally ever kind of lost that joy? Like, it happens to me sometimes. Some people call it burnout. Some people, injuries happen or things like that. You feel like your body's kind of rejecting you a little bit. But have you ever been at that point when you're like, I just need to take a break from working out, or I need to change up my nutrition because I'm just getting bored with it, or it feels like I've lost that spark a little bit?
Oh yeah, totally. When I first got to France, I was the only native English speaker there, and the only English speaker on my team. And so I was living in a house where I couldn't really communicate with anyone, or it's just like a deeper level of communication, I guess, where like your jokes aren't landing, things like that.
Yeah.
And I'd only been on, indoor teams before, where there's 12, 13 girls on each team. And so going to this team where I really felt like I was alone was a huge, like, I think I went through a kind of depression while I was there. I gained 20 pounds. Like, I didn't feel like going to practice ever. I never worked out. Like I was kind of a mess while I was there. So I definitely know that feeling. And when you just are kind of like, what's the point? Yeah. So I feel like because I had that experience, like, it took me a while to understand that was really beneficial in my life, but at least I can speak to that now when people are going through that and I'm working with them. So I'm grateful for it now, but it was super tough at the time. And the only thing that kind of brought me out of it was, like, my family came to visit, and they're really, fun, active people. And so the whole time they were there for, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, and we walked the whole time. And like, the more that my body moved, the more I start to feel energized again, and the better I start to feel. And so then, that was kind of like the tipping point for me. They left, and I realized how bad the funk was that I was in. And I kind of started to turn things around after that.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't realize how bad you're feeling until you actually feel good again. So that's always nice to have those sorts of wake up calls. Now, you seem like somebody that's super hungry for learning and acquiring new levels of knowledge and health and fitness. So I'm interested in what you are fired up about right now. Like, where are you really diving deep on your knowledge quest? What are you going after? What's new and exciting that you're fired up about?
Oh, so many things. Like, continuing education is everything to Tom and I. Like, we're always in different courses. We actually just got 10 kettlebells for our house. And so we have this thing in our place now called Kettlebell Corner, and I spend every morning there.
Nice.
Tom has his kettlebell certifications to be able to coach, and so I think that that's maybe the next step for me. I'm pretty fired up about kettlebells right now.
Yeah, you can't let him have that cert and you not have it. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Because he coaches me as it is now, and I want to be able to coach him a bit too.
So what do you love about kettlebells, or what is most interesting about the kettlebell for you?
I think just because they take up no space. Like, we basically have a full gym now. It feels that way anyways. Like, you can do so much with a kettlebell. I used to feel like when we had our own home gym, we would need squat racks and platform. Like, I'm sure I still will want those things eventually, but because we've only had these kettlebells for a few weeks, but I can do all the same movements with a couple different size kettlebells. And so that's been kind of a huge eye opener for me, because I used to just use them for swings, like two-handed swings. And now, especially since Tom's been trained in them, like, there's so much you can do with them. It's been blowing my mind.
What's the movement that you really love, the kettlebell, that you didn't really expect or that you hadn't ever seen before?
Cleans and snatches, because we used to do a lot of Olympic lifting with the national team, and I haven't been doing as much of that within the last year, because I suffered a couple of rotator cuff tears and had to do platelet-rich plasma shots and go through that whole rehab and recovery. And so I don't do as much overhead movements with barbells and heavy weights anymore. But I find that with the lighter kettlebells, I can do cleans and snatches with them, and it's fun, and it fulfills that fun that I used to have doing Olympic lifting. So that has been really awesome.
Yeah, and that's something that I found with my female clients that I've been able to work, is that, like, once they get that first taste of like deadlifting, Olympic lifts, they put a barbell overhead, I just see them light up. And I probably love nothing more. Like, I love my weight loss clients, but like, I've got a client that has lost over 100 pounds, but she can also deadlift almost 400 pounds now. And it's just like, that combination is super awesome. And I'm interested in what you think just about the state of female fitness in general. You mentioned this earlier, how things are trending in the right direction, but like, I've got a daughter that's 4, and I'm really excited about the environment that she's going to grow up in, because when I was her age and going to like elementary school gym class, there was like, and these are boy push-ups and these are girl push-ups. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to exist anymore. So how do you feel about the state of female fitness in general?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Well, yeah, like I said, I think it's moving in the right direction, and that there are so many more role models now than there were before, especially with the rise of like mega fit women via things like the CrossFit Games and things like that, where they're so strong and so capable of doing all of the same things that men can do, that I think that will become a smaller and smaller issue. And your daughter will grow up just thinking that there are no differences, which is so awesome.
Yeah. I love, like, she'll be running around in her ballet outfit and her tap shoes, but she'll see me down in my podcast bunker in our basement, and she'll jump up on the dip bars and start doing like knee ups and stuff like that. And she wants to grab weights, and she's in full on ballet mode. I'm like, this perfectly represents how I want you to grow up, young lady. So it's pretty cool.
That's so awesome.
So now I want to make sure that people can get in touch with you. You got a lot of good things cooking here with your new business. So let us know like how we can plug in to you, learn more, and get plugged into your world and what you've got coming out of the pipe here with the new stuff.
Okay, so I am on Instagram at Megan Nagy, and Tom as well at Dahadism. Our website is going to be called Macros for Muscles, and so we are launching that within the month. And so I'm sure by the time that this podcast comes out, that'll be in full swing. So that's really exciting for us. You can also send us an email if you're interested in coaching or any more that we do at macrosformuscles.coach@gmail.com.
Excellent. I love that name. I'm a big namer of things, so I love Macros for Muscles. That's well done. Well done on getting that URL.
Yeah, thanks. We were excited about it just because like macros for macronutrients and then macros for a macro cycle in training. We were just, I don't know. We hope that people get it, but either way.
As an entrepreneur and URL like GoDaddy junkie, Getting a good website is like, I don't know if there's anything better in the business game. Like, yes, I staked my claim on this thing. Like when I got Million Pound Mission, you just like pray. You get that name that you love, and then you go in there to GoDaddy or wherever you go, and you type it in, and it's like not available. It's like, oh my God, you just crushed my soul. So yeah, well done, Megan. Now, I like to leave our audience with some action steps. With obviously we've given a lot of inspiration and some things to think about, but as we send them out the door, I want to really point them in a certain direction. So let's say that there's somebody out there that's really struggling with their body image. Maybe it's male, maybe it's female. What advice would you give them so that they can start making that necessary shift and get moving in the right direction again?
Okay. So 2 things that I always tell my clients that I'm kind of preaching all the time, is that there are better ways to track your progress than the number on the scale. And I think that, if you have weight loss goals, that tracking inches and skin folds and things like that, whatever you have access to is better and gives a more complete picture. But more importantly, focusing on mood and sleep and energy levels and how you actually feel about yourself is so much more important than the number you see on the scale. And that number is, so arbitrary depending on the day of the week and how hydrated you are and all those things anyways. And 2, that it's so important to set realistic goals. And I say this all the time as well, that like so many bodies on social media aren't real bodies, and that just people need to realize that and to stop comparing ourselves to others. Because there's like, even if someone's body is real and amazing and you want to have a body like someone else's, there's so many variables that go into everyone's unique journey, like their nutrition, their training intensity, their age, their rest and recovery, their genetics. Like there's so many things that go into each person. And so to choose someone else's body and say, I want to look like that is just setting you up for failure. So choosing realistic goals and measuring in ways that aren't scale weight are my 2 biggest things, just for mental health sake, along with your whole journey to a better life.
And I love that. I think my little takeaway from what you just said is that a lot of us, especially that are on a weight loss journey, and we're really thinking about those scale numbers, like maybe we have a goal of being down 100 pounds and we're down 50 pounds, and we see ourselves as we're only halfway there and we're not there yet. And we're going to beat ourselves up about not being there yet. But I guarantee there are other people that would just kill to be down 50 pounds. Maybe they're on a multiple 100-pound journey and they're at 0 and they're looking up at that mountain and they would just kill to be in your position. So perspective is important. Be proud. You heard Megan talk about being grateful in the morning and starting with gratitude. So maybe not get so caught up and we're not there yet. Be proud of where we stand now and feel that gratitude. So Megan, I love that tip.
Thank you. And I love everything that you've been doing within your community, your whole mission. Like, I think that you and I are very much in alignment when it comes to these things. So thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you very much, Megan. Now, I know you're super busy. I know you've got a lot going on. So I appreciate your investment in time in me, in our mission, in our show. I'm so proud to have you as somebody that's bringing transformation tools to our toolbox with the Million Pound Mission. So I'm really looking forward to getting this episode out there. I'm looking forward to macros for muscles, and I think that you've got a great thing going. So I can't wait to see where you go next.
Thanks so much, Adam.
All right, everybody. Now it's time to get into action and implement. So if something that Megan said really lit you up and you're like, yes, that's the thing, that's the action step, I want you to set an alarm on your phone for 24 hours from now. And I want you to take that action step. All right. I want you to implement. And if you want to level up this little challenge, I want you to write in your phone on the alarm, I am worth it. All right. When that alarm goes off, even if you haven't taken that action step by then, you do it right then, because my friend, you are worth it. And that's how we get out there and own it every meal, every workout, every day. I'll see you on the next episode. Hey, thanks for hanging out after the episode. I had something weird going on with my mic during this one. It sounds like I'm podcasting live from my bear cave. So thanks for putting up with that. Megan rocked it, and she delivered so much value as promised. Now, speaking of delivering value, I want to connect live. I want you to come to one of my 2 live workshops that I've got going on. Huntington Beach, California, September 21st, and Bloomington, Indiana, October 19th. Out in California, I've got JJ Flazanes, I've got Rob Dione, I've got Allie Melody coming in to drop some transformation education. Then here in Bloomington, I've got Robert Sykes, Danny Vega, and Alexa Sherm all coming in. These are 6 of the most downloaded podcast interviews I've ever done. You guys love these people. I want to connect them to you on another level. You can ask them questions, get tips from them, and it's going to be off the hook amazing, and I'm going to make sure of that. So head on over to millionpoundmission.com, grab a ticket before we're sold out, and let's get connected live. Hope to see you there.